بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وهو رحمة الله للعالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المهديين الميامين المقتولين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعداء إلى قيام الدين. أما بعد، فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذا ناديتم إلى الصلاة اتخذوها هزوا ولعبا ذلك بأنهم قوم لا يعقلون. I begin in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, and I extend my heartfelt congratulations and seek and pray for the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be bestowed upon all of you and myself, inshallah, and our families for the sake of this incredible day, Wiladat of Zahra salamullahi alayha, which we're commemorating, inshallah. There's something about these occasions, these munasibat, such as wiladat, wafayat, wafats and wiladats. It allows us to gather and remember and renew, do a tajdeed sense of our allegiance towards the Ahlul Bayt, salamullahi alayhi. But it's also an important aspect of the thaqafa and the culture of Shia. You see, this is something pivotally important. When people often come to me and they ask me, what can I do with my kids or with my wife or us, ourselves, in order to develop ourselves? Or often when I ask some of my dear friends, and I ask them, now you're in your 30s, alhamdulillah, how did you stay straight? Why is it that you have this love of Ahlul Bayt? Why is it that you have this joy for remembering them? And for ziyarah and for the manasik, the rites, and all of these things. I said, you're in your 30s, you could be doing many things. You're a very successful person, but yet you don't miss the wafayat and the wiladat. Don't miss those occasions. He said, because I was raised that way. You see? I was raised that way. That the habit, the ada, the custom of coming and remembering the Ahlul Bayt, salamullahi alayhim, was a habit in my household. So I was raised with their love. I was raised with their constant remembrance. I was raised with their constant dhikr and their mention of their name. And because of that, going to the masjid or going to the Husayniyah or the Imam Bargah is a custom for me of which I am proud of, he told me. Despite the fact that, alhamdulillah, this brother told me that I've made, alhamdulillah, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. And I have a very busy business, he told me, mashallah. He didn't get there as a young businessman like that out of nothing, but yet finds the time to not miss these days, these very beautiful days, like the Wiladat of Sayyidina Zahra, like the Wiladat of the Prophet, like the Wafat of Sayyidina Zahra, or the Wafat of Imam al-Jawad, or any of the Ma'asumeen or Sayyidina Zainab or al-Baneen or Fadl al-Abbas, salamullahi alayhi. But when this thaqafa is missing and this culture is missing, then, well, the results will be seen. What we put in is what we get out. And as an educator, as someone who deals with education and children every day for many years, both in the secondary, post-secondary, postgraduate level, I have seen this two types. Those that have the custom of attending, or at least honoring, in their own way at least, honoring these important occasions, and for other people who it's not the top of the priority list in the week, shall we say. Or it's not possible to, they're not really necessarily ready to shuffle things around to make it. And the results of both these offspring are different. I've seen it, I know it, as not on theory, on experience, in everyday dealing with people. And this brings me actually to the ayah of which I mentioned, where it is stated that when they call upon you, right, إِذَا نَادَيْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ, so that when they call you towards the salah, when they go to recite the adhan, اتَّخَذُوهَا هُزُوًا وَلَعِبًا ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَوْمٌ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. That when the call to pray, Allahu Akbar is said, أَشْهَدُ أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ is said, وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ, when all of these statements are said, the kuffar, the non-believers here, take it as huzuwan wa la'iban, two things, as a mockery and a game. This is very, very, very interesting. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us why. He gives us a reason. There's a ba'a sababiyah here. ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَوْمٌ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. That is because they are people who do not use their intellect. Very, very interesting. Where if you were to ask them, do you have a mind? They'll say yes. But Allah is saying that they have not used their mind correctly. And because they have not used that mind correctly, that aql correctly, they take the chanting and the call to prayer of Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah wa Muhammad Rasulullah, Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala... They take all of these statements, Zuwan wal'ay. They don't understand it. They don't care about it. It's just a mockery and a game. Despite whatever millions they've made, companies they run, however many trade shipments they have, Allah says they are jahil, la yaqilun. They don't use their aql. It's a very, very profound verse of the Quran. That they understand the words. Don't get me wrong. They understand the words. It's not that they did not fail to understand the Arabic words. Hayya ala khair al-amal. It's not that they failed, that they didn't understand hasten to the best of deeds. No. But there's a disconnect between what is understood as far as the words go, as far as the language goes, and what it means to them. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that because they did not use their aql, they failed to grasp the importance of the adhan. They failed to grasp the importance of salah. They failed to grasp the importance of what the Muslims in Medina were doing when they went up onto a height or at the top of the masjid and they yelled, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. It's very, very interesting here. Because these people would definitely consider themselves to be smart. Yes or no? Yes. If you were to ask them, do you not have intelligence? They say, of course I have intelligence. What are you saying? So the question is, in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what qualifies for intelligence? What does it mean to use your intelligence? Many of us may think we use our intelligence, but in reality we may all be fools, sufaha. We all may be ignorant. Is our intelligence and our aql in line with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in line with what the divine commandments have described aql to be? For example, in a dua of Sayyidah Zahra, and this is connected to it, where she says, "Antahaba li yaqinan wa hadiyan wa nuran wa ilman wa fahman." That, oh Allah, give me certainty, guidance, light, knowledge, and comprehension. All of these things can be understood in one way: al-aql. Al-aql, the intellect. That allow my intellect to perform at its full optimal speed and efficiency. But it can only truly operate at its full efficiency when the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shines upon our heart. And this is not only a Christian concept. I mean, this is not only a Muslim concept. Rather, if we go to Christianity, we go to even Neoplatonism, we go back to the Greeks, we see this concept that knowledge truly occurs when the eye of the soul opens. That knowledge is not necessarily the ability to comprehend, the ability to read, the ability to understand what Shaykh Viney is saying. He's here, he's speaking English, I'm understanding the grammar, I'm understanding the words. No. That's not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is getting at here. Aql comes about when we understand the purpose of what is being said. That's where aql comes in. There's a big difference between simply saying I understand and I understand and appreciate the purpose of it. Those are two different things. The jahil can still understand, comprehend, have basic comprehension. But he or she may not understand its purpose, or may not want to understand its purpose, or puts themselves in a situation of ignorance to not understand its purpose. So what am I trying to get at here? Aql is something far grander and far greater than being able to make money, than being able to build a computer, than being able to do programming, than being able to do medicine, or than being able to write a book of philosophy. It's much greater than that. Aql is in understanding the purpose of what all of it is for. Where has it come from and where does it end? What is its beginning and what is its end? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. That's aql. Aqala literally means to bind oneself. Aqala yaqilu. That's one of the literal meanings, to bind oneself to something. To bind oneself to God, to the existence of God, to the presence of God. So let's go to the modern day world. A famous evangelical Christian artist, or rather, singer. She chose to commit adultery some years ago, and it was a big controversy in southern United States. Of course, it's a cardinal sin, Christianity, of course, adultery. So when she was asked, imagine she's an evangelical Christian, so these are like the fundamentalist Christians, When she was asked, why did you commit adultery? Why did you cheat on your husband? She said, well, why would God put this longing desire in my heart if He didn't want me to follow through with it? No one considered her to be crazy. She never considered herself to be crazy. Yet she was jahil. For example, today in our modern day world, in our modern world in the sense of the last, let's say, 50 years post-World War II, relations between the gender are very benign, completely benign. I'm often told by both Muslims and non-Muslims, Walana, Shaykh, take it easy, what's your issue? Come on, use your head. This doesn't make sense. Let them shake hands. Let them hang out. What's the harm? We're always told, yeah, just use your head. Just use your intelligence. Whose intelligence? From what? What is that intelligence tied to? What is that intelligence grounded in? What tradition or set of philosophical values and determinations is that intelligence moored within? Where is it rooted? When someone says, just use your head, that doesn't seem to be a problem to me. Why can't I have a platonic friend of the opposite gender? It doesn't seem to be a problem to me. So the question that I would ask that person is, when you say it doesn't seem to be a problem to me, or doesn't seem to be an issue to me, or it just seems to make sense that this is okay, providing my intention is not this or that or whatever the sake it is. The question that I would ask this person is the following. When you say this doesn't make sense to me, or this makes sense to me, or this seems better, or that seems better, or this seems more rational, or this seems less rational, the question that I would ask this person, this is extremely important here. The question that I would ask them is, define rational. Define it for me. Write it for me in one page. They wouldn't be able to, because they have no idea what the word means itself. It's used so willy-nilly, so loosely. Everybody uses the word like that, or words like it, or words which are synonymous to it. But they themselves, 9 out of 10 times, have no idea what the word rational actually means. Rational according to whom? How? When? ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَوْمٌ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they did not, that they took this adhan, the call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hastening to Allah, as a game. They didn't pay attention to it. They couldn't care less about it, because they were not truly using their aql. Because the aql is not the ability to simply compute things in your mind, but to understand the purpose of why we exist. And that's what they were missing. And I will tell you, there is no difference today than there was 1400 years ago. No difference. And because of that, marriage has become a pseudo-cultural issue, a matter of taste now, right? It's a matter of like or dislike. It's an optional issue. Why? Because society tells us, or certain segments of what we call postmodern liberal society tells us, that human beings as a culture and intellectually have advanced to a certain point where the concept of marriage is antiquated. It's old. It's out of fashion. And if you want to do it, you can do it. If you don't want to do it, it's fine. Be common law. But the question that I would ask again is, what conception of aql or reason is that grounded in? Based on what? We know our tradition is grounded in a divine source. Fine. We can answer the questions as to why we believe marriage is sacred, why we believe the bond of marriage is sacred. But you see the slippery slope? When we use words like advanced, modern, intelligent, reasonable, rational, forward-thinking, progressive, what do we even mean by this? In fact, William Chittick, he states so well. Chittick states in Science of the Cosmos, Science of the Soul, a tremendous scholar of our time, William Chittick, at Stony Brook in New York. He states that these are all plastic words. They mean nothing. They're not worth the paper that they are written on today, because they really don't mean anything at all. Because we really can't ground them in any particular philosophical framework, at least 90% of the time when they're used. It's a world where words are hollow and plastic and they mean nothing and we talk nothing, and it's essentially rubbish in and rubbish out. ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَوْمٌ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. And Allah says that is why. Why did they not understand the adhan? Why did they not understand La ilaha illallah? Why? Because they did not use their. So here we have an absolute corruption of reason. In the 1960s, this is very, very, very profound. So we see in the 60s, especially the 1960s, I mean, we could really blame the 60s on this. I mean, for those who are from the 60s, the 60s really set the pattern of everything that would come after. Everything. From the 1960s going forward. That this new conception of reason, or what is rational, or what is reasonable, became connected with immoral behavior. It's a very long discussion, we don't have time to get into it. But the whole movement against the war, you know, against the traditional church, against the traditional nuclear family, all of that resulted in a reaction, right? And that reaction was what? Live with whom you wish, when you wish, male or female. Drink what you want, smoke what you want, right? Came out of San Francisco, New York, Miami, LA, all these cities, London. Called the movement of liberalism. And we see in the music of that age, the worst things that went on. For example, in the 60s and the 70s, there was a song where the lyrics states, if loving you is wrong, then I don't want to be right. The story is about a wife that wants to cheat on her husband. And this song is known as soul music. Imagine, why is it called soul music? Think deeply about this. Why is this kind of music classified as soul music? This is the 60s. And I bet you nobody who participated in this would consider themselves to be crazy. Yet it was a culture of complete licentiousness, a culture that promotes adultery, a culture that promotes, actually I just listened to it today actually, it was quite incredible. There was an Iranian woman on the radio on CBC today, and she was being interviewed about the movement against hijab in Iran. Of course, CBC only advertises, of course, anti-hijab things, obviously. Right? They've been on and on about this hijab issue, the CBC, right? The radio seems to love the stories, right, coming out of Iran. So she was asked, she says, you know, I respect the laws of wherever I go. Listen to this. Look at the reason here. Ask yourself if the reason adds up here. She considers herself to be a philosopher and a journalist, and so on and so forth. So she says, I respect the laws of America and I respect the laws of Iran, but there's one problem with this. I don't like being told what to do. I want complete freedom. I want to do what I want, when I want, and go where I want. And this Iranian regime is oppressing me because they don't allow me to do what I want, when I want, where I want. I'm not here to defend the Iranian regime. I'm talking about the logic in which she's using. So she claims that she is a very intelligent person, aqila, intelligent, learned, right? The CBC is having her on prime time to talk. Because the hijab gets in the way of her hippie, liberal, millennial, liberal attitude. So I would ask that hippie, liberal, millennial, what is the basis of your philosophy of liberalism? That you shall do anything what you want, when you want, how you feel, and just embrace the animal within you. And burn that scarf and take it off. And she went on and on, right, on CBC radio. And of course, the person was enjoying the whole show, right? Yeah, you know, we are with you, anything that you need, so on and so forth, right? Because there was something that really, really set them off, which is, how dare a society be defined by the values of modesty? That is an affront to everything that European and North American secularism holds near and dear. And that is seen to be rational. That is seen to be reasonable. That is seen to be the only line of reason available. But I would ask that person, whose reason is it dictated upon? Who determines those parameters? Who determines that that way of living is truly logical, reasonable, and, shall we say, sensible? Is it connected to anything beyond your own desires? Is it connected to anything beyond your own animal self? It didn't seem so, because she said herself, it gets in the way of what I want, where I want to be, and what I want to do. And that's why I hate the hijab in Iran, she said. And of course, as I said, the CBC host on 99.1 loved it. I mean, he had a real good time with this person because they just got along right away. They basically were having a party on the radio about how much, who hates the hijab more, him or her. And it is very easy for our sisters and our brothers to be deluded and enticed by this sort of propaganda. What I call the propaganda of liberalism, the propaganda of postmodernism, the propaganda of a self-fulfilling enterprise of self-worship, in which the human being sits at the center of the universe, and the universe shall revolve around the human being. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in the Quran through this ayah in Surah Al-Ma'idah, what Sayyidah Zahra is telling us, that we truly only become truly human when we have certainty, when we have knowledge, when we have guidance, and when we have understanding. That it is not only a convenient option to reach for certainty and enlightenment, it is a moral responsibility to do so. That's what Allah is telling us in the Quran. It is not only an option, it is not an option in a marketplace among other options, which is the road to certainty, the road towards understanding, towards correct judgment, towards being rooted within a particular tradition of understanding. This is not an option for philosophers. This is not as they say, the job of Maulanas. No. No. This is a moral and ethical responsibility on each and every single one of us. It's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in the Quran, and is what Sayyidah Zahra is getting at. And that is why many people become deluded by these conversations like this on CBC that went on today on the radio. And they start having shak and doubts. Because the foundation is so weak. The foundation is so porous. This kind of nonsense can find its way through the cracks and soak into the mind and the soul of the person that was listening to this sort of discourse. It's very well possible. And in fact, Plato himself considered the poets to be the corruptors of society. By poets meaning singers, that culture. From the very beginning, he considered them to be the corruptors of society. That if you want your intelligence to go out the window, then there you are. So the Zahra is telling us that we are lost without this light that guides our reason. That it is the light of Allah, of the nur of Allah's hidayah, of His hidayah and guidance that guides our aql and our reason. Without that, our reason is not rooted in something beyond ourselves, beyond my fallible, mistake-prone, absent-minded self. And then here we get, this Iranian liberal protester, whoever she is in Canada. And then I think they were saying, oh, aren't you worried you're going to get arrested? Poor little you. You're going to go back to Iran, this and that. And they went on and on for I don't know how long. Anyways, it was torture listening to it, but you learn when you listen to these things, right, about what people are thinking. Anyhow. So for us, justice and intelligence come together again. What is truly just must be intelligent. And that ultimate justice, in its specific forms, in its specific way that it's laid out and manifested, must be through the light of the Quran and the Sunnah. Otherwise, we cannot be certain if our implementation of justice, our implementation of, let's say, a universal value, like honesty, like modesty, like truthfulness, like, hard work. These kinds of things are general. But the implementation of these ideas and of these concepts, are they left to you and me to determine their nature, of how they're implemented, of how they're manifested in the world, of what they truly mean? Or is it better for us to trust a divine source? But that would require us to believe in God. And then that would require us to believe that there's a book. Then that would require us to believe that there's a prophet. The problem is when these three things, the book, the prophet, God, the book, and the prophet, are not understood, then naturally the person who listens to this, unfortunate, misguided soul ranting and raving on the radio will be misguided. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And thus Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, he tells us in a hadith al-Qudsi, obviously going back to the Prophet, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Ma khalaqtu khalqan huwa ahabbu ilay min." That Allah is speaking to al-aql and says, I have not created anything more beloved to me than you. Amma, then he says that I order with you that all of my umur, all of my commands, and all of my prohibitions are through al-aql, are through aql. Iyaka uthibu wa iyaka uaqib. That by you I reward and by you I punish. That the aql is so important that Jannah and Nar are determined according to aql. If this is the case, this is a proposition I'm putting forward. If this is the case, that al-aql has such an important rank and important position in the religion of Islam, in the madhab of Tashayyu, then is it possible that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would leave all of this to us to sit here in some kind of, let's say, Jamaat meeting and determine what these things are? In the words of Mullah Rizvi, I remember him once said that even if there was a Jamaat meeting and everyone got together and voted that from next week McDonald's is going to be the Fatiha, that will still be haram. Even though the Jamaat has gotten together and they have meted and they went through a quorum and they had enough votes and all of this. But according to Aql, they've exercised it. They've gone together, they've voiced their concerns, they've come to a consensus that from next week, Na'udhu Billah, McDonald's hamburger will be the Fatiha at the Imam Bar or the Husseini. And to them, this hypothetical group of people, although these hypothetical groups unfortunately exist in the world, they actually do exist, these sorts of groups. To them, that's perfectly reasonable. Because we've let our consciousness speak to our heart. Our consciousness, right? We're feeling, right? It feels right to me. God's not interested in our feelings. Feelings can mislead us, brothers. Feelings can take us down a road that can be very dangerous. What do we mean by it feels right? But we live in a culture of feeling. A culture where we have just feelings. I feel this is right. Nobody really says, I believe this is right. Or I am certain that this is right. I feel that this is right. I feel this is a better way. What does that mean? What is that even based on? So in many cases, it's based on complete nonsense. Especially when it comes to matters of faith and religion. Or when people want to critique Marja'iyya and the Maraja taqleed and the way they issue fatwa or the details of the fatwa or the fiqh of Islam. I'm not saying not to question. Question, it's good to be learned. But what does I feel or I think this doesn't make sense even mean? And how is that any different to a certain extent than that country singer saying, well, if God didn't put that feeling in my heart, then he wouldn't, he obviously, now the billah, she says, wanted me to go to this man and leave and cheat on my husband. Or God put this feeling, right? Everyone says this feeling in my heart that I should be with so-and-so or live this lifestyle or that lifestyle because it makes me feel right. Pope Pius is very, very profound. I think he was the Pope before John Paul, if I'm not correct, or the one before him. He says something so profound. We're not a follower of him, but he saw something that would occur in Europe and in North America. And he says a time will come, or has already come, where the doctrines of the church are determined by what people feel, by that swelling up of warmth in their hearts. And he says that is the day that they shall know that they have begun digging their own grave into hell. Because the existence of God is not based on the warm feeling swelling up in my heart. It's based on aql. It's based on the logic. It's based on the proofs, the barahin and the evidences in the Quran and the Sunnah. It's based on logical argumentation. It's based on the rules of logic. And yes, there is a certain emotional connection with that. But that's not the sole basis. That's not an evidence. That's not a hujjah. Not for us. Of course, for the ma'asumeen, they are ma'asum, so thus their dreams and so on and so forth are very different. But for us, that's not an evidence that, Baba, I feel that she is right for me. What does that mean? When did the Prophet ever say, do what feels right? Where? Never. Na'udhu billah. Never.
Do what Allah and His Messenger have recommended us to do. Look for the attributes that Allah and His Messenger have asked us to look for. Live the life that they have recommended us to live because they know better. Allah firstly as a creator, and then the messenger that He has sent to us. Nowhere has it said, go with your feeling. And even in those cases, we do istikhara. So at the end, that is still, in that sense, the decision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We've sought Allah's guidance. It's not about feeling. And I know you may think I'm going on and on about this, but I'm not, because I'll tell you, 9 out of 10 youths or 8 out of 10 youths that are misguided on this very basis of saying that it feels right. I feel whole, often say. I feel like I belong. Belong where? This is where the intelligence, the aql that Allah has given us is not being used. Because we're not being self-critical, self-analytical. And Sayyidah Zahra, on the other hand, is praying for certainty, knowledge, light, and guidance. Those are very profound things to ask God for. And that's when decisions are rooted in reason, in understanding, in comprehension. And all of that is tied to where? To La ilaha illallah, wa Muhammad Rasulullah, wa Ali all of that. And that is the nur and the light of Ahlul Bayt. And the Siddiqa al-Kubra, Salamullahi alayhim, that fills our hearts and makes our decisions right and guided and pure and real. Not I feel Sayyid Sistani is wrong. I feel Sheikh Bashir is wrong. I feel Fulan ibn Fulan is wrong. Okay, thank you very much. Ahlan wa sahlan. What do you want me to do with that? If the world was guided on your feelings, I mean, well, actually it is to a certain extent, and we see where that goes, where that's taken us. So we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honestly and earnestly in the name of As-Siddiqa al-Kubra, Fatima Zahra, Salamullahi alayha, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us this nur, to give us this yaqeen, give us this certainty, such that the decisions of us, of ours and our children and our families are guided on aql, on the basis of aql, on the basis of reason that is given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and guide all of those people that are astray, inshaAllah. Ilahi ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Wa akhiru da'wana walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
السلام عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك ابن سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك ابن فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك وأناخت برحلك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا غريب الغرباء ويا بعيد المدى سلطان أبا الحسن علي بن موسى الرضا الراضي بالقدر والقضاء، وفقنا الله في الدنيا لزيارتكم وفي الآخرة لشفاعتكم. السلام عليك وعلى آبائك السبعة المعصومين. السلام عليك وعلى أبنائك الأربعة الأئمة الهاديين المهديين ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولاي بقية الله في الأراضين ودين الله القويم والصراط المستقيم. يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب الزمان يا شريك القرآن يا قاطع البرهان يا إمام الإنس والجان، عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك، واجعلنا من أودائك وأنصارك والمجاهدين تحت لوائك والمستشهدين بين يديك في جملة أوليائك. والسلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة وموضع رسالة ومختلف الملائكة ومهبط الوحي والتنزيل ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Brothers and sisters, we will recite 5 times المجيب المضطر شفاء المرضى وتعجيل الفرج وتسهيل الأمور. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. 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 أمن يجيب إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصل اللهم على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد.